The Gauteng Department of Education has issued a final reminder to parents and guardians as the deadline looms for online admission applications for the 2024 academic year. So the applications for grades 1 and 8 will be closing at midnight tonight, and that means you've got just under 3 hours if you haven't gotten the correct information on that online admission form. For more on this now, we're joined by the Gauteng Education Spokesperson, Steve Mabona, who joins us as always from Pretoria. Steve, thank you so much for your time on this Friday night. It's not an ordinary Friday night. For some people, this could be make or break if they're trying to get their kid into preferable schools for grade 1 or grade 8. I do understand by yesterday, it's been quoted in the newspapers that by July 20th, 724,202 grade 1 and grade 8 applications were successfully submitted. Did you see a spike in that number today?
Good evening, Marcel, and to all our viewers. Yes, indeed. By the afternoon, when we were checking the figures, we were sitting just close to 800,000. I can assure you that probably when we updating the numbers will be probably over 800,000 when we are about to place, which is quite encouraging because it then assists us to plan ahead. We will be in a position to place, parents looking at the capacity that we have in different schools. We should be in a position to place them accordingly.
Going by our census numbers and other figures that you work with from different departments, do we have a ballpark figure of how many applications you should be sitting with for grade 1, for the grade 1 and grade 8 cohorts for next year?
Well, because now we are talking applications, we are looking at about just over 300,000 applicants that will be entertaining, which is encouraging now because probably those that will be coming late to say they want to be assisted for late application, the numbers should be lesser than all these other years. Probably it will be around maybe 10,000 or so, because normally, for late registration, we'll be sitting at around probably 40,000 or 50. And that makes life difficult for us to plan. So for this time around, we'll be in a position to plan. Our system worked very well this year. Didn't have glitches. Parents could access the system very well, quite easily. So it's encouraging, and it will then assist us to plan. But we really need to call upon parents, those that have not submitted documents or uploaded documents in our system. They need to do that, because the deadline will be the 28th of July. So from the 28th of July, then we'll be wrapping up and making sure that we then plan ahead for the placement period, which will commence on the 4th of September. That's when we'll be issuing SMSs to parents.
Let's talk about those details for a second. So midnight tonight is the deadline to get those applications in. Then you've got until the 28th of July to get all of the documents attached to that profile or that application that you've already now opened by midnight tonight. And I've looked at the list of documents that need to go in, and various articles point to the fact, and various quotes from people in your department, the MEC as well, saying that the proof of home address is the most important document. Talk to me about why that proof of home address is so important, and what kind of issues have you had around that specific document as people try their best. And they really can't be faulted for that. Try their best to make sure that their kids gets into the school that they would prefer or that they wish for.
No, definitely, it's quite a challenging one. That's why we put an emphasis on that proof of address, because parents will say, I stay with my cousin, I don't have any document that will, bear my name with that address. Now, parents, all of them, they can say that. So we are saying there must be a document that will be, saying, as Steve, I stay in this address. And they will need the owner to also assist you with additional documentation to prove that you really stay there, because it's a disadvantage for people who will be staying closer to a school and they are denied access to access a school that is closer to them. Meanwhile, a school will then be having a lot of people that will be transported to that school. So we feel it's unfair, and it's an important document because the priority will be those that stay closer to the school. That's where we start. And if there's a sibling in the school, we also will then prioritize you. There's what we call previous schools, because you'll understand that there are those that would have been in a primary school in a certain area where there is a high school that is closer to that school. So we'll consider that, because we can't say if someone stays in a township, for instance, they would have been in a school that is closer to the one that they want to access, and we say because they stay in the township, we must take them back there. Some of them you find that it's only English and Afrikaans that they can learn with. They don't have any other language. And when you go to townships, you find that there's all other languages that are accessible there. So we don't need to disadvantage. That's why we'll also consider them. Those that are closer in terms of the work, those that work closer to the school, they're also prioritized. Then we drift into those that are within 30-kilometer radius, and we move beyond. So meaning that anyone can go anywhere in a school in Gauteng, as long as capacity dictates that there is a space that is available, you can be accommodated in any school.
Now, Steve, we've come a very long way when it comes to the online admissions. I feel like that we've been speaking since the first version of the online admission system was brought into place. And I do remember one of those first years, I think the system completely crashed. And you guys have taken lessons from every year and every process you've gone through. Can you give us a sense as we close off this conversation of what have been the wins this year? What do you think you've improved on very well from last year? And what are still some of the niggles you can work on? And then on top of that, are we dealing with a parent population that's come to grips with how the system works now going forward?
Indeed. I mean, many parents, they actually appreciate the system. Because you'll recall that in the olden days, parents would have then had to go to a school and queue there outside the school at 12 o'clock midnight. And when they open the school, they open a different gate, and the queues are, mismanaged. Some, they just look at you and say, this, you cannot afford school fees, and your application cannot be accounted for. So now with the online, you can apply to 5 schools, 3 schools, and you just upload documents, and all these other schools will see that you've applied. And we've been improving this system all these years. So the glitches actually belonged in the first probably year. Moving forward, then we had to improve, because you'll also recall in that first year, it was not a challenge of the system not working, but the system could not accommodate the volumes of the number of people that were applying. But now, 40,000 per minute, all of you access the system, and there will not be any problems. You will also recall that last year our challenge was the Google Maps, because we shocked Google Maps with the number of people that were accessing the system. Meanwhile, we were not permitted to have so many people at a go to access the system. But now we then introduced other stakeholders that we are working with, and we managed to improve the platform, and we increased the number. So on the first day, within the first hour, we were hitting 60,000 applications. So that indicates that the system works very well. And you will hear in September, when we start to place, people saying, no, this system does not work well, and all those. It's not a system, it's a capacity. We need to be honest that the number of applicants that we have, that we need to accommodate, we will not be in a position to accommodate in one school. For an instance, if you have over 1,000 applications, over 900 applications, and you find that capacity, there's no capacity that is over 400 in any school that we can accommodate. So surely we will not be in a position to accommodate you in a preferred school, but we'll be in a position to accommodate you at an alternative school in the neighboring area where you stay.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. As always, the Gauteng Education Spokesperson, Steve Mabona. You've joined us a bit late in that interview, talking about the fact that the deadline for applications, online applications for grade 1 and grade 8 next year for government schools, the online admissions application system, the deadline is at midnight tonight. So you've got just under 3 hours if you haven't done what you need to do to get your kid into the system. And then the deadline for the documents that need to be attached to that application is the 28th of July.